And they both in unison were like, well, yeah, duh. But what are you gonna do for money? And I was like, I don't know, but I never want to work a normal job again. And that was the last time I ever worked a normal job. And I was dead broke. I basically was looking at like maybe 3 months left with all the money I had left, like before Los Angeles jettisoned me back to New York. And through my acting class, I ended up working on a short film, an on-camera short film, and it was directed by a voice actor. It was this legendary voice actor named Dave Sobolov, who's done Transformers, he's Gorilla Grodd on Flash, like he's a legend. This really deep voice, it's amazing. And we finished shooting this thing, and it was like I had to be really vulnerable and like go to crazy places, and it was like crash course, like be emotionally naked with strangers, you know, which is the job, right? So we finished it, and he's like, you're good at this, like, do you do voiceover? And at the time, I didn't have a reel made, so I was like, oh, I don't have a reel, and you know, in order to reach out to a lot of studios in Los Angeles, like, I want to do all the right steps and not just be like, hi, you know, show up at the door. And he's like, well, I produce reels, you want a friend rate? And I was like, please! So I made a reel with him, and where I live in Los Angeles, it's a really long story, sorry. Where I live in Los Angeles, I live by a lot of the local recording studios who do video games and anime and all that stuff, and I just thought, I mean, I'm technically a working actor now. I've done some commercials and some, you know, extra work and big parts and whatever, so I have credits, and I have, you know, these places have email addresses. Like, the worst case scenario is I'm already not working with them, so if I, you know, email them and they blacklist me, whatever, it wasn't meant to be. So I just find all these different emails from these different studios, I send them the voice reel that I made and a little, you know, write a little thing constructed to each place individually, kind of like, hey, you know, I'm new in town, I'm a working actor, and would love to be considered for your roster, auditions, or whatever, if that's a thing that you offer to, you know, new folks outside of. I didn't know how anything worked with that, so I was like, I could potentially be majorly shooting myself in the foot. And I kid you not, within real time, a few weeks, the first one started reaching out to me, and all of the emails I sent eventually came in forms of jobs, and it started a career that never stopped since. It's mind-blowing. But I accidentally fell into this and just fell so deeply in love with it. And it was that realization, like the first time I got in the booth and had a job, it was like, shoot, like the same thing you did, where I was like, oh shit, I love this. Like, yeah, which I'm sure you know the feeling of.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And it's just more of a feeling of like, yeah, you fall into it and then you kind of realize it. I would have to say, in a different voice casting, whether it be in your closet or whether it be out in the living room or in the studio, you learn to adapt and you overcome and everything. And I genuinely have been appreciating your work more and more, and I'm like, I hope I can do English voice acting. Right now we're just sticking with whatever.
Well, I mean, can we spoil for everybody here?
I mean, if you want to.
Introduce yourself, brother.
Hola, mi nombre es David Martínez del anime de Cyberpunk 2077. Yo hago el doblaje latino de Netflix.
If anybody watches Cyberpunk. Yep.
Cyberpunk 2077, David. I really want to get back into, like, I want to see if I can do English dub.
We would love to have you. I hope we get to work on something together.
We know what Japanese voice actor.
Thank you.
Why not?
Surprise their voice actor panel.
So I had a question for both of you actually. So Power and Denji, I know they have a lot of one-on-one kind of interactions in the series. What was the most interesting one?
Choice word.
Like the one you had to like, you know, look at it and scratch your head like, what?
Well, what's funny, I guess there was no head scratcher for me because I'm such a nerd that I've read this manga like 4 times over. So when we were recording it, I was like, I already knew what was coming, and I was more sitting there going like, I can't believe they're doing it, we get to do this. But I will say that, I mean, obviously, we'll just say the bathroom scene is... But I want to say that my favorite scene currently, like, because we have, honestly, it's hard to even really pick my favorite, but like one that, like, as you were saying, it came to my mind first, just because it's like such a like microcosm of a moment, but it so perfectly defines their relationship. Is in episode 12 when, and this won't really spoil very much of the story for anybody who isn't there. They're in an elevator and they're just kind of like arguing over like she's like chewing on a zombie arm and he's like, it's so gross, and she's just like, if it's meat, I eat. Like whatever it is, I eat anything. And then like they have this little like mini argument, like sibling kind of rivalry. The elevator doors open and there's just tons of zombies everywhere. And then she's like, you're really quiet, and I think we'll be fine. They don't notice us. And she's like, goes batshit
My name
crazy,
is Caroline.
screaming, goes bananas,
I am
jumps around,
beautiful.
and she's just like raging, destroying all these things, and she's like, what is it like, watch my back, and she goes, and I'm just in the elevator like, you bitch. And then the elevator just goes, and I just go up, and it's just this perfect, like, I just adore that moment.
My favorite part is that he just like has the like.
Yeah, it's like there's no even
Like the
reaction. He's
whole,
like,
like,
of course you
really?
did. Yeah. It's so good.
I just love it. I love how the doors close. He's like, no.
Yeah. Like you're on your own. And she's just fine on her own anyway. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
You look so awesome.
Even like further away too, I can see both the eyes fully glowing. It's
So gnarly.
Like, you are the cutest looking, like, what do you call it, the anglerfish? That's like here. I love
Amazing.
it.
Hello.
Hello. What are some of your guys' favorite lines to do as Senju Power?
She's more like a bullshit devil.
Honestly, every single episode, I went into that movie, even knowing what we were doing, but like sometimes the lines, they just get interpreted a little differently. And I'm like, I can't believe we get to say this stuff. I can't believe I get to say this stuff week to week. So many good ones.
I think that Mike was
I think like some of my favorite stuff that Sarah did also is like just some of her non-verbal stuff. Her laughing in so many of those things, like especially in like episode like 5, 6, like when they're stuck in the Eternity Devil arc and she's just laughing at all of Kobeni's distress. Like it is pure genius. Just yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This is a question for both of you, but if you were to make a video game out of any of the anime you have been in, which would it be?
I want to remake the Aladdin video game with Rhodey.
What in the world?
It's so accurate. Come on, it's awesome.
Let's see. I don't know. Maybe Land of the Lustrous. I feel like that would be really interesting.
Okay.
Thank you for your question. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
So it's similar to some stuff that's already been asked, but what's your favorite moment or chapter from the manga that you're most excited to see or read in anime form?
Okay, well, I won't get explicit for anyone who hasn't read very far. I will say, there's two different, like, major, like, beats in the story that I'm really excited about coming. I mean, I'm excited about everything, because it just gets crazier and crazier. But,
Yeah, we're not allowed to spoil and go ahead.
I will say there is a scene in the manga in a movie theater that I absolutely adore, and there is also a scene in what we'll call another world of sorts.
That is just gonna be bananas. Thank you.
Hi there. This is a question for Sarah, actually. So I know you also voiced Toru in Dragon Maid, and that one had a bit of a gap between season 1 and 2. So I was just wondering, was it hard at all to kind of slip back into the role after, what was it, like 4 or 5 years between seasons?
Yeah, no, it was not hard at all. It was like getting back on a bicycle, it's like, I know how this works. Everybody sit back. I am so good at it. Yeah, I expecting it to come back, you know, after the fire, which was so heartbreaking. But I was so excited and so overwhelmed with happiness to know that it was coming. And that they were coming back with that, and we'd be able to do the OVAs. I was so excited, man. I'm still like, I'm blooming with it. But yeah, I was able to just jump right in. I know where Toru sits. I don't need a reference because she's right here in my collarbone. That's where I keep her.
Well, thank you so much. Here's hoping it's not another 5 years before the next one.
I know. I hope they come up with the third season too.
Hi again. So, I got a little bit of a mean question. So, without spoiling anything, can you guys ever hear "Happy Birthday" or look at a cake again without it hurting?
People have already brought us cakes.
Why do so many of you want to hurt us so bad? Like, what is wrong with you?
If we must suffer so much.
Desensitized at this point, thanks to you guys.
Every time I'm like, why are you so terrible?
next time someone brings a cake, I'm just gonna be like,
God. I've had several powers come up with like ones that they made themselves. Like it wasn't an actual cake; it was just made of like cardboard or something.
I still eat it.
One person made it their first. Yeah, they needed a bag to carry around, so they made a cake first, and they had me sign it too, of course.
It's amazing how many things, like, again, without getting into details, it's amazing how many things that, like, out of context sound really, like, simple and abstract and are so, like, iconic because of the story. It's really cool. Thank you for your trauma.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
If we must suffer so much.
We suffer together.
We suffer together, not in silence.
Hi, I really just wanted to say hi again. I saw you guys yesterday and I was literally almost crying from getting your guys' autographs. But, so I know you said that you guys have this like kind of brotherly sister bond. Do you guys think your characters do? Or are they just more like along the lines of best friends?
I think it's what's so cool. I don't want to speak for you necessarily, but I think what's so cool about the story to me and the characters to me, like the Hayakawa family, is they're all in different ways, whether they even know it or not, are looking for their sense of belonging and sense of family. Like even Power doesn't think she likes anything or anyone does, and I think she struggles with understanding what that is. I think Denji is equally, you know, because of his lack of education, is not able to like intellectualize his incredibly deep emotions and his layers of feelings. And Aki is clearly also putting up many, many walls that he's trying to hide behind, you know, to save face and look, you know, more together than he is. And I think all of them, without even wanting to and without realizing it, love each other like family. And I think that it is one of my favorite like elements of the story is them reluctantly becoming a family.
Yeah. I have the same feelings too. Like I definitely feel like they have a very deep, familiar, is that what we call it, bond.
Yeah, and it's like also, you know, especially because Denji and Power, what's interesting about them is like, she's not even necessarily human at all, you know, like, and it's when you really think about how weird it is, she's this like demon in a corpse body that is like trying to figure out how to human.
Yeah.
And Denji is also a human weird hybrid thing, but also just trying to figure out how to human. So like they're both kind of navigating all of these experiences and feelings, emotions for like the first time, but they're also like, you know, young adults. It's a very fascinating, weird thing. And I think it's just a weird, beautiful combination of everything as you kind of see them discover themselves and each other.
They definitely have a very similar connection where, they are both trying to figure out how to love, you know, and like what does that look like? Is that something that can even happen? They're both very selfish too, so it's hard to juggle all of those things.
But I think that they're like, there's, in a weird way, there's a lot that we can learn from both of them. I think in some ways,
you know, there's such a raw, like both of them live so in the moment, and I think that we can really learn from that, you know, to be more present. And Denji obviously has values in the simplest of things. You know, he considers the tiniest of things that we look at every day as like a thing that we just commonplace to him are luxuries. And I think that if we like stopped and really acknowledged how fortunate we are to even have these things that we think are simple, our lives will also be that much more enriched. Like we really are so fortunate to be able to even just be here with each other. And I think in a weird way, be more selfish. And I don't mean that like be a dick, but I mean like be kind to yourself. Like be more loving to yourself. Be there for yourself. Be your own champion. Root for yourself. Believe in yourself. That's what I think is beautiful about Denji and Power. Is like they don't even necessarily realize they're doing it, but they're so focusing on who they are at their core and discovering themselves. And I have always believed that like the best way to give to others is to be as fully formed as your own self, so that you know how to be there for other people, you know, instead of the other way around. And I think that's like a really beautiful lesson to learn from them. So I ramble a lot. Sorry.
It's beautiful rambling though. It's like listening to a writer who's like just flooding with ideas.
Hi there.
Hey.
I'm just going to make sure my voice is sounding okay or it's pumping out.
Your voice sounds lovely.
Yes, we can't hear you right now.
Don't compliment him here. I'm gonna shit.
I will.
But I. I just wanted to ask, what was, when it comes to adapting like manga, what is your, this extends to both of you, but like what is your thought process with like adapting these characters' voices? Because I know that you don't really get like a reference, or like just what is the thought process for when it comes to just speaking for these characters?
When I got the auditions, I immediately knew what page they were from. And to me, what was beautiful about it was, I think the reason I even had a remote shot and why I'm so lucky to be here right now is because of the scene they chose for the audition. Because it was the scene where he's talking to Pochita on the log. And to me, that's such a pure example of who Denji is at his core, versus what we all come to know throughout, you know, it's like if you've read it a few times over, and by the time the anime was announced, I think so many people are so familiar with most of the story that everybody's thought about, like, who is Denji is, they kind of think of the Denji you kind of get to know, you know, who is much more like brash and confident and all of these things, but that Denji that you meet in that moment is completely broken, you know, totally hollowed out, literally missing multiple organs. It's pretty valuable ones of that. Has never been loved, has never been treated with kindness, has been starving and living this like truly broken life. And to me, you know, it was like you take all of that emotional kind of space, and then you also, like, I look at the teeth and all those things, and I think, like, to me, he always, like, felt like it's like you take a piece of paper and you crumple it up, and it's like this just scrunchy, crackly, fried, you know, but still full of optimism and resilience and this will to continue, because why would he keep going if he didn't have that, you know, and even in the beginning, you know, when he's at his lowest, you still see him smile and see that optimism, see that wry humor, and
Like an optimistic goblin, basically.
yes, and I just really felt like that when I saw those sides, it was my chance to show them the Denji at the core, the soft, layered human that has so much complexity but doesn't even know how to express it and doesn't realize that he's way more intellectual than he is. So to me, it's like it's all of those elements, and also what I hope we've been achieving. And pardon me. We got it. I hope that just gets taken as a soundbite. You know, it was just to me, I wanted to also take him on a journey episode to episode, because as he's growing and evolving as a person, he's going to become more confident and a little bit sharper and a little bit spicier and a little bit more, you know, the humor is going to come out more. And obviously then we have the Chainsaw Man mode, which we just wanted to go completely feral. Just like, to me, it's like a conscious werewolf. You know, like going into werewolf mode, but still being present to who you are, but also this sense of like pure unleashed freedom. And like that first episode especially, where it's like, this is my chance out, like this is my way out. There's no way I'm giving that up. And like that, all of that, just like I felt all of that, and I tried to put all of that into it. So I hope it works.
It does.
It works so good though. Like I'm gonna cry. No, I'm not. No, I won't, because I said I wouldn't today. Anyway. For me, I also I had the manga on hand, and I noticed that they were all from like, I think it was like the second manga when Power is introduced, and she's talking about how Miaoi got taken away, and Makima wouldn't help her, basically. She's keeping her confined there. And it is kind of hard to try to figure out where a character should lie, or like how are you going into the auditioning process with that too? Or if you're just coming in to read for the character for the very first time, you have no idea who they are. But I tend to do a thing where I will look at the summary, take in as much as I can from that, and they give you several different like tones for the voice too. Sometimes they'll give you a reference, and I honestly I'll just look at them and I'll put them into my own little stereotype category, and I hate doing that for characters, but like it is like that. And I saw her, I'm like, okay, yeah, she definitely screams like degeneracy and gremlin. Like she's gotta be raspy, because she's gotta have that bite. Yeah. So like, just like based off the appearances, you can get a good grasp of like where should this character's voice like really be like setting, you know? And it was honestly, it was very difficult because I hadn't read the manga like this guy over here who completely devoured it in in both ends. And I didn't read it completely. I just started at random places where she just came in and the world building.
Such a power move. Bullshit. There's me.
If you guys listened to audition, it was completely chaotic because I thought it would be funny if I just like randomly had her like shout a different line. Like she's like humans. I hate humans. And I hate devils too! You know, like something like that. I don't know, I feel like she'd be just like all over the place.
I want to hear your audition. I have to ask Mike.
I gave 2 different options because I wasn't sure whether I was going to do like a higher voice or if I was going to do like my natural. The natural ended up being it, but yeah.
Sweet.
So yeah, my favorite thing about her is that she, when she lies, she believes it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's such a confident character.
Yeah, she's convincing herself of her own lies. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So real quick, just to interject, we have about 5 minutes left. So we will maybe lightning round a little bit.
Yes,
please?
I will talk way less.
Hello again. Hi. So I know that for a lot of voiceover sessions you do it individually, but I was wondering if you guys ever got to interact with those voiceover sessions or like act together, or get to step in and see each other act at all while recording the voice lines for.
Well, even crazier, we're actually in different states.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we like full on. I mean, normally anyway when you're doing anime, you're doing it one at a time because it's just how the gig works. I've only done. I did a live action dub, which means you're dubbing over like live action films. Once where it was what we call tandem, which was like 2 people doing it at a time. But it's only really practical if you have 2 characters who are basically always just interacting with each other, because otherwise there's so many other technical elements that you have to kind of account for. I would love to do what we call pre-lay animation, which is like, you just play off of the script and they animate to it later. Like, I would love to work with this one in a case like that where we get to just go bananas and put it together. One day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
This is a question for Ryan. What is your favorite guitar to play?
Oh man, so I've had a couple of, what did you say, sorry?
Do you still like jam out as well?
I do. I took a very long time off of playing music because I just needed to like fall back in love with it. I had a weird brief thing where I accidentally co-wrote some K-pop singles, like really bizarre. Like one of the members of EXO and one of the members of another like big K-pop band. They're like single albums and like we had singles on the record. It was bizarre. But I've recently kind of gotten the bug back to work on something. I might put together like a little weird indie rock EP or something. But one of my favorite guitars was, I always collected like weird older guitars that I could like find that were kind of like the ones that nobody else wanted, that were like oddly cheap and fun to play. And there was this old Gibson ES-120 that is like this really bizarre looking hollow body that's like super cool. It's like a 72. It was awesome. Everyone's like, that is so nerdy. What are you talking about?
I know what you mean. Hello, it's John, and as I'm doing more and more voice acting, at this point, commercials, which is insane.
Amazing.
I am coming into the day where I wake up sick and I'm no longer, and I'm just not going to be able to either get to the booth because I'm so sick, or God forbid, like a depressive episode comes and I just can't get myself out of bed. How do you guys come into a booth if you're just not feeling like 100%, or if you wake up like a wild day?
If I am sick, and it is like impacting my ability to move and it messes with my voice at all, I am not going to go in. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's also like, we know that like, because the thing is also if you're sick, like, and it's something that you're currently working on, you know, if you normally sound like this, you sound like this. So it's just not even going to work anyway.
Yeah.
But I think in general, as far as the like, I guess my weird answer to it, to like how do I get out of bed to do it on like the hard days. Before I got to do this job, I worked maybe 20 some odd other kinds of jobs since I was like 15 years old. Like I have woken up at 3 in the morning and worked till 3 at night. You know, like it's like the whole. I've done every kind of combination of things where like I was working jobs where I was like a PA, lugging wood all over the place. And, like I was destroying my body and my mind and my spirit for many years, and didn't even realize that I was like in a deep depressive mental state and all of these different things, and just kind of like not sleeping well, not eating well, just not taking care of my mental health, and just allowing myself to kind of feel like a human furniture. And to be honest, I will never have a bad day doing this job. I wake up every day grateful. I wake up every day excited. And like on my worst days, this is still my favorite thing about the day. You know, so like it is the gift, the greatest gift, and I'm so lucky to be able to do this. And I know how many people, even regardless of like how many people just dream of doing it, I know how many people that are like friends and peers who are extraordinarily talented that don't get to work as much as they should, and all different kinds of things. And I'm so fortunate to be able to work, period, but to get to work as much as I do, and I absolutely love it. So I just wake up grateful, honestly. But I think that it's important if you are finding that you are waking up, on those hard days. Going back to kind of what I said before to everybody, I think it's more about finding self-love for yourself first, versus even worrying about career or aspirations or anything like that. Because you'll never be able to give to your art completely until you give to yourself completely, right? So find that those times when you wake up and it's rough to get in the booth, go for a walk and go outside and go be kind to yourself, and then get in the booth.
I have a.
Thank you so much.
before you go. Here's my answer.
I said I was gonna talk less.
It's okay.
They talk about being.
No matter what the state is, no matter what my state is, I'm so excited to go voice act that like it doesn't matter. Like the moment that I know that I'm going to go do that, the moment that I'm going to get into the booth, all of those problems are just gone, and I'm in a really good state. I do think that if you are struggling to pull yourself to do something like that, like either you just tell yourself that you like this thing and it doesn't matter, or you might need to just take a break from that thing. Like I need to do that with my art sometimes, and that's perfectly okay.
Commercials dream.
Oh, I understand.
Character acting, love it.
It's
all the time.
hard.
Commercials.
That's valid. They tell you to be like, don't do it as a commercial, like do it as a friendly thing, and then they write things that are commercial-like, so I understand.
Yeah.
So I hate to cut in, but we are actually at time. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. One more time, let's give it up for Ryan and Sarah.
Get to do, you can always come up to our booth and ask.
Yeah, we're here till 3, so come up to our booth, say hi, please.